Okay, hello everyone, and good afternoon to you who are tuning in from China. Good morning to those of you who are tuning in from various places in Europe, and welcome to today's session on China logistics and distribution channels. Today's session is the fourth session in the series that we are creating with the EU SME Center in collaboration with Eurochambers and also together with Spirit Slovenia. This webinar series, we call it the Capacity Building Webinar Series. And today, as I said, we'll be focusing on the logistics and distribution channels of getting to the market in China. Before we get into today's session, there are a few things that I'd like to get through. And the first one of them is that I would like to explain very briefly about the EU SME Center, who we are and what we do. So the EU SME Center is an EU Commission funded project that has been started all the way back to 2010 and is now going on in year number 12 in the third phase, as we call it. The purpose of the EU SME Center is to prepare EU SMEs to do business in China. And we do that by providing a range of different services. All of our services are free of charge. Now, then the question is, what kind of services does the EU SME Center provide? Roughly, that can be divided into 4 different categories that I would like to just explain briefly to you guys here. I'm going a little bit fast over it today because I think many of you have probably heard this before, but for those of you who have not yet, I'll go through it here. The first of the 4 services is what we call the Knowledge Center. And the Knowledge Center part of EU SME Center means that we collaborate on doing a lot of market reports, guidelines, and case studies that we publish freely available on our website. And as of today, we have just around 200 market reports available. And just this Monday, we released our newest one on China's supply chain. So we also highly recommend you to check those out, freely available on our website. Also part of the Advice Center is the self-diagnosis tool. That's one of the parts of the Advice Center. The self-diagnosis tool is a free-to-use test that you can try out on our website to check if you are ready to enter the Chinese market or not. By taking the test will then give you some feedback on some aspects of your business that you may, with benefit, look a little bit further into if you have not done so already. That's the first part of the Advice Center. The second part that I'd also like to mention is that on our EU SME Center website, we have what we call the Ask the Expert function. And that is a button you can click, and then you can ask just about any question about doing business in China, from various sectors to regulations to all these kind of things. When you click the button, you can ask a question, and we will try to get back to you through our experts in just 5 working days. So we also highly recommend you to try this function free of charge. Now, the third of the 4 is that we also act as a training center for European SMEs. And that comes to fruition as sessions through sessions such as today, where we invite speakers, we invite experts to share knowledge on various topics. It can be either online as we're doing now, but sometimes we also do them offline in both Europe and China. Sometimes we do them hybrid at the same time, online and offline. So if you have any ideas for topics for us to cover in the future, please always be sure to let us know which topics you'd like us to cover, and then we'll try to accommodate that. The fourth and final aspect of the EU SME Center is that we also act as an advocacy platform. What does it mean? Well, it means that the EU SME Center through the advocacy platform shares updates on certain issues that may affect regulatory landscape in different sectors for European SMEs in China. Also, we arrange some workshops and a lot of meetings with both European and Chinese stakeholders. So that is the advocacy platform. Today's session is not the only session that we have in the EU SME Center, and also not the only session that we have in this capacity building webinar series that we are doing together with Spirit Slovenia and Eurochambers. It's session number 4, and we have one again on March 15th. And for our other events, you can check our calendar on our website if you so wish. One extra thing that I'd like to mention before we get into today's presentation on logistics and distribution channels in China is that after the presentations are over, we will also have a Q&A session. So if you already now know that you have a question you would like to ask, you can already now click down in the bottom here of Zoom, click the Q&A function, and then ask your question, and then we will be sure to get back to that question at the end of today's session. We highly encourage you to use the Q&A function and not the chat, for that reason that it's easier for us to filtrate through the questions as we go along. But if you have any comments for the speakers, you can of course try and use the chat as well, but then we will not put it into the Q&A at the end necessarily. We may forget it. So with all of that out of the way, I will not spend much more time here on the EU SME Center presentation. I would like to bring on the first of our speakers that we have today. His name is Rafael Germines, and he is the China trade expert at Enterprise Estonia. And Rafael, if you are ready, please, the floor is yours to share your screen.
Thank you, Nikolai. Tell me if you can see this and we can start.
Yes, it's on the screen.
Okay.
And now it's full screen. Perfect.
Okay, thanks a lot to all organizers and participants. I do not intend to give a boring presentation because there are all sorts of materials and content available that will help you. Only tell you that I've been working in trade for European Union for years. I do the same now for Estonia. Trade is a single policy of the European Union, so I sympathize a lot with the needs of the companies across the European Union. And as I told the organizers at the beginning, I put, and they will tell you when you receive the slides, I do a free newsletter on trade with China with original content every week. It's free. So if you want to subscribe, you don't need to pay anything. And it's about things that happen in China relevant to trade in products or in services. So they are available for you every Monday if you want. Let me talk about Slovenia exports to China. It's very well known over the last 10 years. You can see here that you have been growing your exports to China at an annual growth rate of 12%, which is extremely good. There is a problem, however, seen from outside, which is this. I picked up these stats yesterday night. These are the top 10 individual products imported by China from Slovenia. Okay, as you can see, this is quite unusual compared with other countries. I mean, if you, for instance, focus on Slovakia, to name a country, the part of the automotive hub of Bratislava is, let's say, the 80% of the exports of Slovakia. However, if I take the top 10 items of Slovenia, you can see that this is only something like 38% of the total of exports. The rest of exports, talking about individual down to specific products, is only 38%, less than 40%. This is good and it's bad. It's bad because means there is no, let's say, except for the expertise of Slovenia in some components for the auto industry, the signaling, the lights, this stuff, the lighting equipment. The rest is quite fragmented. So that is the bad part. The good part is you have a hell of categories exporting because no one after these 10 is above 1%, which means an opportunity. I'm not claiming it would be easy, but certainly it looks like Slovenia has all sorts of stuff that to some extent is interesting for China. Let me just spend a moment telling you what's my belief of where we are now at this moment with the supply chains, because we live extraordinary times for reasons that we don't need to explain, unfortunately. And this is the criteria. I've been talking with experts in trade all over Europe and other places, and beyond the immediate impact, which everyone can see because everyone knows what export or imports from a particular country. The analysis now is that the situation is unpredictable. because with the things just starting, we cannot know what will be the spillover effects. So probably there will be a snowball in the offing, and we need to prepare for that, which I'll tell you what I would do, I would suggest. The entanglement of the supply chains is very strong. So even if you are trying to export, you might find that some import you need is not available. So we need to do a quick assessment of each of companies of the current supply chain to avoid or to put some solution to foreseeable unexpected effects. Okay. I know this is not good news, but it's inevitable. I mean, the Chinese consumers will put themselves in a wait-and-see mode, and will have some repercussion, I foresee, in import orders from them. However, I would suggest first to prepare in-house an assessment of your own supply chain. And why this, if we are here talking to export? Because even if you want to do is exporting, your intermediate supply chain might have an impact. I'm leading a group now helping Estonian companies to analyze the impact and give responses. And many of the cases are like this. This is an email from yesterday. Someone that is exporting some sort of sparkling thing and has everything, has the market, extra European Union, and what does not have now is the bottles, because they were coming from Ukraine. So they are asking me if we can connect with some Chinese supplier. I'm here to help them to export, not to import, but obviously, if they do not have glass bottles, they will not be able to export anything. So we are instructing the companies how to do this analysis to figure out quickly what would be the impact of the situation in the short term. But other than that, we need to look beyond the immediate. And in the immediate thing that you can do for the more not so experienced with China is getting ready for China. This is a good place to start, and trust in your institution. Also, I can say that the foreseeable exchange rate of the yuan-euro will favor Chinese imports. Actually, if it falls below 6, European Union will be a cheap place for Chinese companies to buy, because will be a level never achieved before. So my prediction is eventually the exchange rate will be very appealing for Chinese consumer and importers. So this is playing in our favor, not in the short term, but definitely in the longer term. Also, China needs are many. They need many things that not only they don't have foreseeable, they will never have. So the market of China and its consumers will not disappear, which is encouraging, even the current circumstances are not very encouraging. So talking more specifically about getting goods to China, I thought a lot about this presentation, and I wanted to take a down-to-earth approach, because you all are experienced business people. And rather to tell you in detail how it works, logistics and distribution, I would tell you from the business point of view what the company might expect. So you understand a business language which is more comfortable than the business of a specialist in logistics. First, you probably know 99% of our companies in the European Union are small or medium enterprises. And always the two main difficulties SMEs encounter to export are access to finance, access to information, and the access to the procedure to export extra European Union. This is the reality. If we make a poll, this will be always the results. Okay? So the key to manage logistics and exports to China, for me, for small and medium companies, is not to confuse the inherent difficulties of exporting to faraway markets. That's one thing. There are difficulties. The farther the market, the more difficult it is. But difficult does not mean you can't. It means you need to learn some things. That's it. And very often exporters confuse the difficulties with impossibility when in reality, what is happening is they're making some fatal mistakes. So I'm trying to talk today about the fatal mistakes rather than about specific procedures which are very clear, and both institutions in Slovenia and the EU SME Center can help you to clarify, and it's not difficult really. So few people understand that you need to ask some basic questions like, can I export my product to China or my service? Is it relevant if it's a product or a service? The answer might be no. This is completely, for some reason, some product or some service might be completely off limits, and you will never be able to export that to China. Can be political reasons, can be all other reasons. But this is the first question you need to ask. And if the answer is no, well, it's no, and there's nothing you can do. We would like to, but this cannot be done. This is a simple question that EU SME Center will answer you straight away. My category is this one: can I export this to China? If it's a no, they will tell you, or institutions and consultants in Slovenia. If the answer is yes, there will be surely some preconditions. Some things you need to do in advance before even thinking about hiring a logistic operator to take your product or sell the service into China. It might be that you need a certificate called CCC, China Compulsory Certificate, because you're exporting some electronics. And if you don't have that, you cannot export. You can export, but without this, you cannot export. And of course, if there are no preconditions or you already meet the preconditions, then you will have at customs some sort of conditions and regulations, A, B, C, D, etc. Not difficult to comply if you prepare. Very often the companies confuse the difficulties of understanding this with impossibilities. It's not true. It's just getting familiar with these things, and I tell you, it is not difficult. The same can be applied for services. Some companies in Slovenia might want to export a service rather than a product. And you need to ask first, is this off limits in China? And if it's not, then what are the preconditions? Learning, and then when you fulfill all the preconditions, then you ask for the specific conditions and regulations to send or to put your service into China. So, however, linked to logistics, there is one question that companies always forget to ponder, which is, let's assume my logistics are good enough and my product is already on the shelf in China. For some miracle, I do it in one day. Well, miracles never occur, but even if it happens, there is something previous that I encourage you to use the knowledge in Slovenia from consultants or organizations to find out, and it's possible, which is, what are the reasons why you want to export your product to China? And the only reason should be this one, that you have worked and have a specific and well-researched reasons in support of exporting your product. That means you really think you have an opportunity. Not a guess, not a whom that I thought that Chinese consumer or companies might like this. You need to know in detail. Otherwise, don't try. You will waste time and money. And how you could start doing this, because not often is done. This is an example of an Estonian company. These bottles are competitors. The direct competitors of the Estonian company, which is already in China, but I followed this with them. I think it's cider, I can't remember. So you need to find out, is it with the people I'm competing, the companies I'm competing in China eventually, one day, will I compete in price? Because my brand or my product is not well known, and I need to know if I put a reasonable price onto the shelf there, not me, my importer, that will be a reasonable price for the Chinese consumer. So the first thing you need to know is, what is the reasonable price of the competitor already in China? Why you need to know what is the price build-up? because even thinking about logistics and distribution channels, you need to think what will be if that fits within your current gate price or export price. And people discover only after months that cannot compete. It's better to do it in advance. And it's part of the logistics to China, because the price on the shelf of your competitors tells you that this will be probably the maximum price. In this case, it was 27 yuan, that your product can show on a shelf, because you are going to choose the best of the best or the best known. And then you have to take from that all costs that go from the VAT at the shop wants a margin, the importer wants a margin, there are duties to pay at customs, there are VAT at customs, maybe a consumer tax. You need to pay a freight and an insurance that now are going up, by the way. You need to pay the cost of taking from your factory to the port. And all of this, it's a cost on top of your export. So the cost on top of your export, including the margins that your partners will want to have in China, will be enough or not to put your product on a shelf or to deliver your product to another company. So if you go to this, it's just ballpark figures I did yesterday. If this is the right price, let's say 27 yuan, which is approximately 4 euros. If this is the right price on the shelf, once you get this, all these costs, which are margins for importers, etc., 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 and you keep some reasonable budget for promotion, at the end of the day, you discover that this either you want to export to China cannot be more than €1 export price. And this is where all starts, understanding, okay, now can I export at €1? Maybe my export price is €2. And the market is telling me that in China, there is no space for something €2 because the leader is at 27 yuan. If I put €2, I will be at 40 yuan. How can I compete with the leader if I'm more expensive than the leader? You will need a nice narrative for that. So my recommendation to think now about logistics is, if it fits with current prices in China of true competitors that you will find there, outline an action plan right away. You can compete. However, if it's higher or much higher than the current price levels in China, and you need to do this work in-house, you need to ponder if you are comparing with the right competitors. Maybe you have chosen to compare with people that actually are not your competitors. Maybe your product is so good that nobody knows in China, and that's good, but you will need to spend money in promoting that your product is better than anybody else. Or maybe you need to innovate. And in the European Union, there is a lot of money for innovation. Maybe you need to put new machinery to improve your factory or whatever, or reduce costs, or adapt your narrative. So even if you postpone going to China, this analysis will tell you what you have to do to be in China, let's say in 1 year from now, instead of now, or in 2 years from now. So I encourage to do it with people that can help you, even if you are not exporting to China now. So who can help you with these things of how can I know if I can export or this of limits my products to China? Well, the organizers of this webinar, for sure, the USME Center can respond, and sometimes it's a tricky question. It is obvious some things can be exported, others are off limits, and you need to dig deep. So these people in your country or paid by European Union will be able to respond whatever your question is. But not only if products are off limits, they will tell you what are the preconditions. If you need to be homologated for some reason, if you need to present some analysis of your product, if you need to have some special certificate, all of this, you don't need to worry too much, but you need to assume that they exist. So you need to make questions about your category before starting the logistic process. Because remember, the logistic operators, will take care of the logistics information, the information that has to travel with the shipment to clear customs. But another type of information which is not inherent to clear customs might be needed, might be a CCC, and that you need to do in Europe, and you need to find out. So don't be afraid. You ask, this category needs CCC, and you ask USME Center, and they will tell you yes. And then you ask, who can do this certification for me? And they will tell you, go to this service provider list, and there you will find 10 companies that currently help companies for a fee to do the China compulsory certificate. So it's not that difficult as it sounds. Again, many people need to calculate this thing I said before to know what will be the tariffs, what will be the duties, the VAT, the consumer tax, all that stuff. Again, don't be under pressure. This you can find yourself, because you can enter into this link, which is European Union. And I made the first question that popped up in my mind. I guess you can read here. I want to know which are the tariffs to export ferro-titanium from Estonia to China. In English. This is the link, and it's something paid by the European Union. If you do this, this is what you get. They tell you that we hold this MFN status with China, European Union. You will need to pay a tariff for this thing, ferro-titanium, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I think it's a sort of waste we export. 2%. Then you will have procedures, formalities, some trade barriers, and even statistics. I mean, if you check here, I have no clue about this category, it's beyond my knowledge, and tells me, sorry, that this is what has been exported by Estonia to China in quantities since 2017. All right? So do not worry too much about finding all these things. You have them available in natural language. You can put the HS code, but also you can put titanium, and we'll give you several options until you refine your search. This is available. I guess some of you might know, others might not know, and saves a lot of time. Logistics to China and customs clearance. My best business recommendation. There are lots of forwarders, a lot. And many in Europe, most of them are very good, but some of them, in a desire to get more business, they say that I can't help you with China. The reality is not so many forwarders later, they really have experience in China. I mean, they have an agent or they have a correspondent, but look for a forwarder with real experience in China, not simply that they say they have a correspondent there, because a correspondent there might be a Chinese company that does not pay too much attention to the European forwarder because it does not generate too much business, or they are very busy with large clients. So please, when you hire a forwarder, make sure that they can demonstrate that have a real experience in China. Let me go to the point 4, where many companies fail. Do not assume also that because the forwarder has experience in China, it has experience in your category. Categories, procedures for clearing customs, and the officers at customs in China are completely different depending on the category. So if you are exporting shoes, sorry, the agent of the forwarder is not the right agent than if it's processing ferro, titanium, or machinery, because the officers they're going to meet at customs are completely different, their needs are completely different. So make sure the forwarder understands your category. They can be doing very well with the Slovenian wines and not have a clue about the complex chemicals. So try to interview forwarders to guarantee that they understand China customs and logistics to China for the category you are going to export, not for the category the forwarder has experience still now. Be careful because the expertise at the ports varies a lot. While customs officers in Shanghai have seen all sorts of products, if you find an opportunity inland China in some remote port, because there are inland ports, do not assume you will find someone at that customs position understanding your product, because they do not have the same expertise that people in Guangdong or people in Shanghai or in Tianjin. And that is a problem. If you start a category not well known in China, if you say shoes, everyone knows shoes. But if you start to export something innovative, which Slovenia has, it might be the first time that someone in some province in China receives, and they will not know how to process this. They will not have activated even that code in their database. So make sure that you choose a port where there is enough expertise in processing imports. It's important. There are over some 40 ports of entry in China, can be coastal or can be inland. And look that almost 90% comes from 10 or 12 ports. Okay, so these ports, all on the East Coast, have a hell of experience. But there is other ports which are processing up to 1/5 of China imports, and they have little experience. So also talk with your forwarder about to which port you are exporting the things. Do not allow your importer to decide, oh, I want to export and give some strange word inland port, where probably they will not know about your category. So analyze also the final destination of your export. This is a picture of the Guangdong traffic this morning. You can see all this green is cargo ships. So imagine the confusion with all these ships arriving and departing. China, this, by the way, is the Black Sea, where you see this hole, unfortunately now, where there is no ship traffic. And this, by the way, making just a short interruption, this will affect the Danube River logistic corridor, because in the Constanza port there were goods being unloaded. So prepare for some sort of disruption due to this situation. The same for planes. You can see these current air cargo problems when these are only internal flights of Russia, but all the traffic that was before here has vanished. Okay, so about customs, again, learn the necessary documentation for your category. This is all published by EU SME Center. You say wines, it is there. Shoes, plastic, chemicals, whatever, they will tell you what you need. And you don't need to read the regulation for leather if you are doing wines, but if you are doing leather or shoes, you will need to read. So it's not that you need to read everything. You need to read for your category. It's not the same as certificate for electronics than to register in the file for food and drinks, which is, they have changed recently. Some remarks about China customs. First, never play with China customs. The guys are among the most efficient in the world because they deal with $6 trillion movement of goods every single year. No other custom in the world does this. Follow the laws and regulations. Sometimes there are temptations, and sometimes from the Chinese partner to ask the supplier in Europe to send a different invoice than the real value, because this way they pay less taxes or something. Do not play these games, please. China customs will have your records of 3 years and has the right to go through your records for the last 3 years. And if they find something they don't like, even if you clear customs properly, they will call you and you will be sanctioned, economic or other way. So be careful. It's not that because you cleared a shipment tomorrow, it's already cool. 3 years need to pass until you think never will happen something with this shipment. They can call you back in the next 3 years. Of course, there are problems in China customs and there are reasonable complaints, but it's not what you expect, because if we talk with exporters, they tell a lot of troubles, which are true, but are not these reasons. One criticism of China customs is they make frequent changes on short notice. This is reported and they know, not that they obey what we want, which is please stop these changes on short notice. Still they practice. This generates some sort of unpredictability. We criticize from the European Union that the processing of their exports are much faster than the processing of their imports. They have improved the time of both. I mean, if we look back 5 years, they do much faster than 5 years ago. But while exports they process much faster, imports only process much faster. So there is a gap between how is the interest of agents at customs to clear the things going out, and it's higher interest than to clear the things coming in. Some ports do not have enough knowledge because they are not internationalized enough, so be careful with that. And language is a barrier. Many documents are never published in English, and we are talking about international trade, and this is a request made a long time ago. However, many of the real complaints of companies are more related with not preparing the logistics correctly, and these are the most common problems. Labeling, which is easy to do, but you need to be aware of how to do it, and it's a whole set of documents telling you how to label your products for the Chinese customer. The pre-documentation that you need to make sure that you have before exporting. Some people is able to send things with a lack of certification to the risk that happens, that the container will be stopped and destroyed. Problems with invoices. Chinese are paranoid with invoices for one reason. They don't want money to leave the country. One way to put money outside the country is fake invoicing. I mean, to pretend more or less money of what's the reality. So they check this carefully, not because they care about your product, but because they care about money leaving the country. And if you export to China, someone in China is paying to you. So that is money leaving China and living in hard currency like dollars or euros. And they do not like to see foreign exchange to leave the country. They love to receive foreign currencies, but not to see foreign currencies leaving the country. And some sort of lack of prudence. I have seen clients sending 2 containers of, let's say, infant formula without the necessary pre-documentation. It's unbelievable, but I have seen it. And knowing that this will be stopped and destroyed and your name will be in customs like a crazy person or crazy company for 3 years. However, these things still happen, and it's very imprudent to do this. Solutions, there is one that always works. Always when you prepare your logistics, when you're freight forward, prepare and you are ready. Prepare a small quantity to ship to your partner in China or your importer in China. And follow the whole procedure, even if it's a small. Do not say this is samples. No, what we want actually is to follow the whole procedure. Like if you were importing 20 containers, but you sent 5 kilos. This way, following the whole procedure, if something fails, the problem will emerge. Of course, they will destroy or return the product, probably destroy because you don't want to pay returning the product. It will cost more than the loss, but the loss will be small. And if you iterate this process with small quantities until you are 100% sure, when you are sure, then you know that no problems will emerge because you get your health certificate there easily, the packing lists are correct, the bill of lading are drafted in a way that they understand, the invoices also match Chinese usual procedures, etc. And the labels, of course. Some remarks about the role in logistics of your distributor. Make sure it understands customs procedures. While some of the potential partners you might find for exporting your product to China, they understand customs. You may find a new company that wants to import something that you have that is interesting for them, but they do not have much expertise in customs. You are happy because you have a partner. You are happy because you are going to make business. The company there is really interested, but you need to detect if they understand customs procedures or not. Because if not, they will call you later saying, oh, customs does not process my product. It is your fault. No, it is not your fault. It's the fault of them that they do not have people hired to help them to process the clearance of products at customs. This is not as infrequent. There is a lot of companies in China interested in importing that they are completely new to importing from Europe. So they will not understand how to do it. So make sure they hire someone understanding. Make sure also that they understand international payments. They might be willing to pay you, have the money to pay you. They do not have any intention to cheat you. They are good boys. However, maybe because they do not have an experience in international payments, they don't know what is the procedure. And in China, if you want to put money, convert into dollars or euros and pay someone in Europe, they need to follow a procedure at the bank, at their own bank. And maybe their own bank, which is a branch in Shanghai, they will know everything, how to do it. But if it's a branch in a remote location, the bank probably has never made at all, this branch, an international payment. These days, we talk a lot about SWIFT. I guarantee you that in many branches of banks of China, they have SWIFT. But if you enter and you say, I want to make a SWIFT payment, they will need to call the headquarters in Beijing or in Shanghai because they don't know what you're talking about. They have, but they never do. So this will be a problem for your importer to pay. And please, one problem with logistics is that once we send something to China, we forget. We think, well, when the guy needs more, they will call me. You cannot do this with Chinese importers. You need to be constantly monitoring the stock they have in China. We sent to you 3 containers 1st of February. What is your stock at 10th of March? And do it every month or every week. Why? Because if you don't do it, you might call 6 months later and saying, listen, partner, you didn't put a new order to me. And to your surprise, the partner might say, good you call, actually I did sell 0. Your Chinese don't like your products, no demand. Yes, this happens often. So if for some reason things are not working, you don't want to know 6 months from now. You want to know next week. So if you follow what is the stock of whatever you have sent to China on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, you will find out if the company is doing the right efforts to put in the market your products. Very often, companies in Europe get surprised that after 6 months, someone has not purchased more. And when they call, they discover that still the whole or 90% of the stock is still at the warehouse of the importer. You don't want that for 2 reasons. First, because it reveals that you didn't push the importer to do the job it's supposed they have to do. And second, because they will try to get rid of this merchandise at the lowest possible price. And because in China, everything is online, the next time you want to hire an importer or sign with a partner, they will check the price of your products online. And they will notice that this has been going down and down and down and down and down because the expiry date is approaching, and will be very difficult to negotiate with people in China because they say, your first importer or partner was not very successful. I have seen how the prices was going down, so it doesn't seem that Chinese consumers love what you export to China. Actually, not your fault. Probably not a good business plan with your partner. But avoid at all costs that your products go the slope down in pricing just because something you sent to China was a too big order, or because your partner did not do the development of the market correctly. Logistics to China, and I'm coming to an end, will be different if you do general trade or if you do cross-border e-commerce. In general trade, you dispatch to general customs your products, so the flow of goods is through the general customs area. If you are doing cross-border e-commerce, the flow of goods will go through free trade zones. What's the difference? That in the general trade, the interaction is one exporter in Slovenia is exporting to a company that has an import license, so it's an importer also in China. When you do cross-border e-commerce, actually, you are sending to a consumer, okay? You can send directly or through some online platform, which is in the free trade zone. I think the SME Center dedicates specific seminars to this. So cross-border is more business to a consumer in China, okay? While general trade is B2B, is between two entities that one export and the other imports. General trade in general has no restriction of how much of the things you can do other than the preconditions and conditions, of course. However, in cross-border e-commerce, the list of the things you can export to China via cross-border e-commerce is limited, is published, and the EU SME Center has this list which changes, generally increasing every year. Some years ago, it did not include alcoholic drinks. Now there are alcoholic drinks. Some years ago, there were some cosmetics. Now there are cosmetics, okay? But this is cross-border is only for aim to final consumers, not to general importers. In general trade, the taxes are what you can find in the link I have shown before, which is this European Union link, which tells you the tariff, duties, VAT, consumer tax, etc. And cross-border e-commerce, the China Free Trade Zone, they have their own set of tariffs, much lower usually than general trade. Why they do this? Because they want the Chinese consumers that they cannot travel to be able to purchase things abroad. So all the online platforms that might be useful for you as a logistic channel for sales in China, they have the logistics to import to the free trade zone from Europe or from US, to store in the free trade zone these products, and then when a Chinese client, individual, wants to purchase something, enters into these online platforms, and the product is already in China, so it will be delivered quite quickly. They know it's cheaper. The Chinese consumers, however, have a limited amount per year they can spend purchasing things abroad. Payments, if you are going to export, is part of the logistics is to get paid. Remember that the yuan is not convertible. And when your partner wants to pay you a shipment, first needs to pass money from the current account the partner has in the bank, which is in yuan, and needs to pass some money to the foreign currency account. The bank will ask why you want to convert so many X thousand yuan or million yuan into euros or dollars. And it's at that time, when you still didn't ship from Slovenia, that the partner needs to present documentation because wants to prepare everything. So they will need pro forma invoices and all that stuff. The bank will check the things. because they don't want, made by Chinese, outflows of money out of China. This is very regulated. So they will have to pass these controls from their own bank, even if they want to pay you. Sometimes it's a surprise for the importer if it's first time they do. And you in Slovenia might think, oh, this guy does not want to pay me. He's delaying the payment with excuses from the bank. Well, make sure that the guys, your partners, understand international payments, because they might be trapped in discussions with their own bank, even if they have the money. So this could take easily 15 days, and at the end of the year, 1 month. So while many importers know the procedure, your particular partner might not know, might be new and not knowing the procedure. So please discuss with that partner that they know how to make international payments. The same applies for the branches. While a branch in a large city will know the procedure for an international payment, if we go to a small, might be 500,000 people, bank in, I don't know, in Mongolia or Huizhou, maybe that branch of the bank is the first time they make a payment in euros, and they don't have a clue how to do it. That would introduce delays that you would interpret like they don't want to pay to me. All right. Never forget this as part of the logistics routes of the payment, which there are no logistics without payments, of course. Accept this as a rule. The path of the goods has to be the opposite of the path of the payments. Example, if you send goods to a company in Beijing, sorry, but the company in Beijing has to pay you to your company in Slovenia. These things that you pay to me, but you pay me in Hong Kong, and from Hong Kong to London, always draw the attention of the financial authorities of China, create problems, and eventually create serious problems. So the rule is the flow of the goods, the opposite of the flow of the money, always. So try to avoid operations where you do not have perfectly clear the path of the goods and the path of the money. Payments, many importers are familiar with payments upfront or with payments via letter of credit, but others are not. So don't assume that every single partner you will find in China understands what is a letter of credit. So this not sometimes delay tactics, is they need to understand that in China, many do letter of credit. So try to educate them, because maybe it's a good partner for your product, but does not have the expertise with these instruments. If you feel that you don't want to risk, then try to negotiate an upfront payment. Very often, your Chinese importer will try to, or partner, will try to negotiate an annual quantity. And on based on that annual quantity, will try to get a price from you. However, you will notice that even if you say, okay, if you buy this much every year, that will be the price per unit. However, then when you ask them, I want you to commit every month or every quarter to shipments in these quantities, so you make your goal, they do not want to commit to that. This is super frequent. You cannot avoid. What Chinese like is incentives. So you put incentives, you say we review quarterly if you meet the annual commitment. I mean, if it's 25% every quarter, let's see, end of the quarter, if you make the 25%, you will get 1% discount. They love incentives, so try to negotiate in a positive way. But do not fall in the trap of negotiate the price with them for big quantity when then 3 months pass and they are far from achieving already the goal of the year. Following detailed payments and imported stock level for the reasons I told you before. Okay, always keep an eye on what's your stock level this week. or this month, but don't ask this question every 6 months. You need to ask every month. If you do not push, they'll feel that you are not interested. And if you are not interested, why they should be interested? If they feel the pinch of your calls every Friday or every 2 Fridays, they will know this person will continue calling me until I give a response. Do it. Do not try to negotiate too much merchandise at the beginning. You sell what is reasonable that your importer in China will be able to put in the market, really. Sometimes importers in China purchase a lot only to let the goods expire. Okay, you can say, well, they paid me, I didn't lose any money because the payment was done. It is not my fault, it's fault of the partner, they did it wrong. But you will suffer the consequences too. Because if your products start rolling with the price in an spiral going down because they're trying to get rid of these things that they cannot sell or they don't know how to sell, this will impact you. So try to adjust your shipments to the reality of what your partner is going to sell in China. As for the distribution channels, online is already 25% of total retail sales, not of fast-moving consumer goods, of the total, which is amazing. It's the only country in the world where for the total of retail sales achieves 1/4. Okay. The choice of a distribution channel depends very much on your categories. Some products work very well in off-trade, but not in on-trade. Some products are always sold offline, some others are sold online. Do not get confused. Selling online is not the same than promoting online. Two different activities. Some products are sold online and promoted online. Some products are sold offline but promoted online. Okay, so I think I was told that you're going to have a digital marketing course very soon. Try to make this distinction because online is both a sales channel, but it's also a promotion channel. Very important. Let me tell you that logistics intra-China, except for the cold chain, are very efficient. Most of the large logistics operators in China will cover some 800 million people, which is about the same main city, 100 main cities, able to deliver in 48 hours. But most of the deliveries will be, if it's in a city, intraday. Think that for the large platforms, they call a remote location if it's the delivery is more coming back and forth more than 4 hours. So they consider that they will deliver in the next 4 hours for most of the shipments and deliveries, which is amazing. They are super efficient. This gig economy, this delivery of goods, will continue for one reason. Not because online is important and at the end someone needs to receive a parcel. It's because it's a substantial market of employment. For China government is very important for a good reason, because this is an entry-level job for many people, including people getting out of college, that they need to make a living immediately. And I checked in 2022, sorry, this should be 2022, not 21, 10 million people will graduate from college. So this gig economy of delivery is very important for Chinese for a first employment, while these college people find better jobs, and keeping unemployment at bay, the lowest, the better, is very important for Chinese government. Be careful, consumers in the online channel are ruthless. If they don't like something, they will tell everybody. So your partner doing online sales must understand that has to service the Chinese consumers. This will be explained to you when you do digital marketing. And again, do not confuse online as a sales channel with the role of online in promotion. It's a different thing. I'm closing with two paramount things. Don't even think about China if you do not analyze, if you do not take action about these trademarks. Please do not go to China, but without, I mean, it's the best recommendation I can give you. If you do not have a trademark for whatever you're selling, it will be a disaster because you have a heavy risk of losing your trademark. And even if before going to China, you can check the presence of line of your brand. And even when you are in China, check frequently if your brand is mentioned online. It might happen and maybe you don't know it, okay? So many people says, I didn't start selling to China and I have to spend money in a trademark. Well, the cost of a trademark for, let's say, 6 classes or something must be in total, I don't know, let's put a high number, 1,000 euros, and it's valid for 10 years. That means that you have done actually an investment for 10 years, which is 100 euros per year. So 2 euros per week, which is nothing, it's a coffee. But more than that, this is not an expenditure. If you talk with your financial controller, an expenditure is if we pick up money from the company account and we pick up a taxi, that is expenditure because we have 10 euros and now we don't have after the trip in the taxi. If you do a trademark, before you had 1,000 euros in your bank account and now you have a trademark, you are the owner of an asset. So actually it's not expenditure. So your financial controller will understand that you are not spending any money. You are just using some money for an investment. The worst thing that can happen is that in 10 years, you are not interested in keeping the brand and then you can resell. Probably there is always a lot of people looking for brands quickly because they need urgently. It's not difficult to resell and you recover your money. So I would recommend start doing your trademark tomorrow. Okay, with this, I'm finishing. And I understand that there's a session now and questions, etc. So, but I will stop sharing unless someone tells me not to do it or something.
Thank you, Rafa. First of all, let me take it from here. So first of all, thank you for the presentation on the logistics and the distribution channels. For those of you who are watching who may not know, I think it was hinted slightly, but maybe not that clearly. Rafa has a history as well with the EU SME center, I should say, now being in the 3rd phase, but in some of the previous phases, Rafa much more involved, but still now to this day also involved through the activities and so on. So one thing that I would also just maybe make a little shout out for is that Rafa is also doing a lot on China, obviously, and compiles a lot of this data into original content that you can actually follow through follow Rafa's updates as we go along. So Rafa, if you would like to share it, maybe down in the chat, you can share the link for how to follow your newsletter on the updates on China. Then another thing that I would also just like to say is that, as Rafa also mentioned, we will be taking questions, but we will be saving those questions until the end of the session. So if you have a question so far that you would like to ask Rafa, then please ask them by using the Q&A session here in Zoom, and then we'll be sure to get back to them at the end of the session. Another little technicality that I would like to just get out now before we move on to our next speaker is that these activities that we are doing with the EU SME Center are always free of charge. The only thing that we are humbly asking is that when we send a feedback survey afterwards, when you may receive it in your email, that you perhaps take 1 minute or even less that it takes to fill it out, so we can know how to improve in the future, how we can do better, what did you like, what did you perhaps not like, so we can be sure that our events and our activities are always as good as they can hopefully be and as useful for the European companies as they can hopefully be. Now, with all of that house cleaning out of the way, I can also see that that Rafa has helped to share the link down in the chat. So please click on that one and subscribe if you would like to learn more about what Rafa is sharing on China. But let's move into our second part of today's session. And for the second part of today's session, we would like to invite Janea to share with us. Janea is an entrepreneur who has many years of experience living and working in China, has operating business in China, and has experienced a lot when it comes to these topics of doing business in China. So Janea, if you are ready, then I would like to pass the floor to you for the next part of today's presentation.
Hi, thank you, Nikolai. Hi, good afternoon, good morning to everyone. I'm glad we are back together. I hope I can share some useful tips from my experience working in China. Let me prepare the, hope you can see the presentation.
We see it, but still not in full screen. There it is in full screen. Thank you, Janea.
Okay, super. I guess short introduction is always useful. So I'm Janea. I was working in China for 15 years. I was working for Slovenian companies the whole time, and now for the last 3 years I'm in Slovenia. Unfortunately, also due to the COVID as well, like short trips are not possible. So I'm working from here. I'm helping different companies to enter the Chinese market. So my projects are really from all over the place, let's say. And today I would like to share a few tips. Last time, so on Tuesday, we were out of time. So I would like to continue a little bit with the topic we were talking last time, because I think it's really important. Introduction to Chinese market. We did talk a lot about it also on our first session. So how to do the market research, I think we already did that part. But still, I would like to point out few, let's say, most important topics. So we were talking a lot as well today with logistic, which we will see also later, government policies and regulations. I'm always saying this is one of the most important things. Today we heard a lot, check in advance, do according to law, and I would really like to point out this. So be prepared in advance, check what are regulations, what is Chinese law. Every province, every city, also within the city, you have different rules. So be sure you really check in advance, hire a local lawyer, and really do according to law. Be strict with that. From my experience, sometimes I had Chinese partners, agents, they were saying, this is not so important. We can do the pass around this rule. But as a foreigner company, it's really important for you to don't do that, to really follow the law. As well, with this, we were saying choosing a location. Different locations have different rules. Some are more suitable for you, some are not. You should as well check how are government benefits with that. A lot of government are giving you some benefits, maybe tax-wise. Once we had a case, we got land from the city government. So they gave us land for like 99 years of free use if we build the company there. So check what is that you're looking for and try to find the perfect place for you. China is big, so don't take it as a whole. You should go into pieces, let's say. Maybe just one of my experiences also from IP. Last time we heard the theory, what should we do? I must say I heard a lot of, let's say, bad cases, but from my experience, I didn't had any like bad experience with it. There was only once we had like one item which was produced only for us. Then we found it in the catalog of our producer, but after telling them, they did like remove it immediately. They said it was a mistake. And actually we never later on also did not find it on a market somewhere else. So my experience was not bad, although there are maybe a lot of people are thinking like we will give them our know-how and then they are going to use it. We need to protect. We would like to have our R&D wholly in Slovenia, let's say. We don't want to give them the knowledge. On one way, this is, this is true. But on the other way, how can you work there if you are not present wholly? So this is something you really should decide on the beginning, also what you will transfer to China and what not. We had cases, our employees leaving as well. We had a case, one of them opened his own company with the same production, but honestly, on the end, he was never our competitor. He could do like really low cost, low quality products. So he was not even like close to our product. So be careful with that, but don't be too stiff. Because if you want to have, especially if you want to have production there, you must have some certain people knowledge transfer to China. Without that, it's going to be very hard to work. So here we are with entering market without a local entity. On our first session, we were talking a lot as well about direct sales, so I will not go to that this time, but I will focus on a local partner or distributor. Yeah, we could say this is the fast and simple way to enter market, probably also with lower costs if it's working. One big problem that I see are the control. You need to give certain control to the agent or distributor partner, which can be problematic sometimes. So my suggestion is to always keep some control over what they are doing. For example, I had a customer who had a local agent in China, and I think they made like quite a bad agreement at the beginning. So they were importing goods from Slovenia. They were paying for the whole cost, transportation, taxes in China, even warehouse in China. Of course, the payment terms were like paying for the goods. It was, I think, 30 days after selling them out. So actually, it was really bad agreement for Slovenian company. But they were saying, yeah, but this was the only way they wanted to work with us. On the end was the local agent was having no costs at all. Of course, this was not his primary business as well. So he was not motivating to sell anything. So it was like more, if it sell itself, if not, not. So try to get the best deal you can. I think already if you share some costs with them, they will be more motivated. As well, they must be motivated with the payment. I think we were talking already, and today on the logistic part, we also saw like what is going to be the sales price there. So if you are selling for 10 euros in Europe, you can sell for 60 euros for 60 euro in China. Let's say the costs are another 10 euros. So there is on Chinese side is profit 40 euros. Don't take all that for your profit. Give the big share to the distributor. They're going to be happy, and you're going to be happy because you will have much higher price than in European market. So as well, try to pay them according to the deal they will do. I had actually when we were selling in China automotive parts, we had also different distributors all over China. Not distributors, sorry, it was like an agent. So sometimes if your customer is far away, you need to have, let's say, good logistic to travel there. You need to have extra people, big sales team. If you don't want to do all that, you can do with the agent. So we found a good agent who were already working with our customer, but on different projects. So he was not selling the same materials, the same product. Be careful about that, because if he is going to work also for your competitor, that's not going to be that's not going to work for a long term. But since he was working with different products which were not in our range at all, he already had a good relationship, guanxi, which we were talking before. So it was really useful, and we agreed for him to be paid according to the projects he will get. So he was really motivated for doing that, and as well, like the costs, other costs were more or less nothing, since he was already in the company every day or periodically. So this was a really good good solution for us, but it's really hard to find people like that. I cannot imagine to find someone. I'm being in Slovenia, and now I'm trying to get to the Chinese market and to try the perfect partner distributor there. So it was, like I said, it was much easier for us being there, getting the network of people, and then this is something you can do. Otherwise, yeah, it can be really difficult. Then we have market entry with a local entity. We heard last time about the rules, the documents we need, what are advantages, disadvantages. I would like to tell you, I was doing that when I was in China. I was already there for a few years. And one of the things, I don't know if it's advantage or disadvantage, it's like I would like to be involved in everything. So even when we were opening the company, I said I would like to be involved in that. I would like to see how it's working, how are the rules. It would be impossible for me alone to do it, but together with our lawyer and our assistant, I could be involved, and I wanted to be involved because I think it's really important. Through that procedure as well, you do find out a lot about how things are working in China. For example, here you can see I did like signing contract with blue pen. Someone would think this is like, what, you can sign the contract with whatever. No, in China you need to sign the contract with the black pen. So when we're preparing all the documents, you know, this is the whole list of documents. I think we had around 500 signatures on the end, or even more. A lot of these documents we needed to send to Slovenia. Different people needed to sign. We need original, so you need to do DHL. It's not possible to do by mail, so it takes time. In one package that I was sending to Slovenia, there were like really bunch of paper that needed to be signed. Although I told them you need to sign with the black pen, on the end, when I received the documents back, I saw half of them were signed with the blue pen. Of course, they didn't want to take them. So we need to do the whole procedure again, which, you know, it's, if you need to do this, it's immediately 2 more weeks. So really be careful, prepare in advance, do according to the list they will give it to you, and try to explain to everyone that this is like really important. One of the things I would like to point out as well is the company seal. So company chop is really the most important thing. The legal representative will get 5 of them. It's company as well. I had the stamp with my own name. So, for example, for the bank, or as well for the some import documents, you need to stamp them with your name. So my signature was not valid. I needed to stamp them. This is very important. I was actually the only one I was using the stamps. So if you're not in the company the whole time, you need to be well organized to know when they will need things to be stamped. I don't know, maybe someone would say this is, you are too cautious, but in the past, especially experiences that I heard from the beginning, when people were entering to China, me personally as well, know few of them, they had big problems. They gave the stamps to assistants, to some other people working in the company, and they were used for like hurting the companies. So people were losing a lot of money. They were losing companies over that. I think this is especially something you should be careful also in a joint venture. I think in joint venture, the Chinese partner have advantage. It's their country, they know the rules, they know how to go around them. As well, all the documents, all the contracts are in Chinese language. As well, if you have them in Slovene or English, Slovene probably not, but English language and Chinese, you will see on the end of the contract, it's written, the valid is Chinese version of the contract. So be careful with translations. We all know the translating contract is not as translating one I don't know, everyday article. Try to have, let's say, lawyer who can explain things to you so that you will know what you will stamp, what you will sign, that you will not have problems later. here as well, I think one of the quite important thing is that you have a legal representative from your headquarter. In one way, it might be harder, but I think it's better that you have someone you can trust, that you have someone who know that cultural differences we were talking before, and that will really really do the thing as he's supposed to do according to your company vision. Like we said, joint ventures can be advantage. I personally think that advantage is if you want to invest in some industry, you cannot invest as a foreigner, wholly foreigner, then of course you need a Chinese partner. Otherwise, they're saying one of the reasons to have joint venture is also the knowledge they have there, maybe network they have there. I would do the plus and minus list to see if I do need joint venture. Like we heard last time, there is a big risk also for IP. Negotiations, terms, they are at the home field, so they know really more about Chinese law, about how to do business there. So be very careful while you are doing agreements already at the beginning. Like I said, I didn't have bad experiences, but I know a lot of people, more or less the companies I know, they don't have good experience with joint ventures. So once again, be careful about that. Let's go to our logistic topic that we have today. Ways of getting goods to China. More or less, we are doing containers, sea shipment or air shipments. In last 2 years, things did change a lot. I guess also in last 2 weeks, things are changing. Unfortunately, I don't have, I think no one have a good answer of what's going to happen in the future. Still with COVID, China is quite closed, although here we think COVID is already a bit in the past. We are getting to our normal lives. But in China, they are still closed. I must say, I was surprised when I heard they discovered the COVID on metal parts. There were some parts for automotive industry. So as well, that shipments, they are checking for COVID. With one of my colleagues, more or less every time they find some virus, and then they need to put the goods in for disinfection. So the procedures are much longer, also because of that. We know that we have a container shortage from China to Europe. I would like to share one of my experiences with air transportation. In end of 2020, it was in December, we sent goods out. There was one pallet, 1 ton. The price for air was 1,500 euro, which was already much higher price than before. but the same shipment a year later, so end of 21, it did cost 3,500 euros. So here is what to do. One of the things is try to plan in advance. Try to do the sea shipment if possible. We were sending this by air the whole time. Our costs were okay, but now is we needed to do the change. And for example, the same shipment for the sea, it costs 400 euro. So you need to reorganize, you need to plan in advance. For each shipment, the price needed to be checked. For each shipment, the delivery time needed to be checked. There are a lot of delays, which costs money, of course. One thing that I recommend is if you are selling to China, do the ex-works price. Here we had, let's say we had our customer who were doing ex-works price, but now on the last shipment, they wanted to have CIF price. They said as well for them, it's easier to do the custom clearance in China. The important thing was they had as well insurance in the freight costs. At the beginning, I was not very excited about that because that's extra risk, extra job for me on our side. But on the end, I said, okay, we can do it. But one of the things, if you're doing something like this, you should be careful about the costs. Make the agreement that the freight costs are going to be paid separately and paid in advance. When I came to that, they said, okay, we can do it. It's not a problem. But the problem was at the bank. Before we heard that payments, contracts need to be done well. So when we had the payment in advance, only for freight cost, we needed to do the new contract. The contract needed to be checked with the bank because they wanted to have we wanted to have advance payment, so the bank needed to approve. I did a lot of contracts before. I was sure the contract is okay. I prepared, I sent to them. They did send to the bank. The bank said, yeah, it's okay. You can come and do the payment. When they get to the bank, there was another person working at the desk, and they said, no, here you need to change one word, which was not even important, but they didn't want to do it. So we needed to change that. We needed to stamp again. We needed to sign again, and they need to go to the bank again. So yeah, it's a lot of small things. You need to take time. You need to be patient. A lot of times when I came to some office, to some bank, they said it's not possible to do it. You need to do again, or you are missing another document. After we came later with another document, there was another person working, said we don't need that document, but be patient with that, and everything is possible to do it. Just be patient. I would like to give you also one of the example for the documents. Here is list of the document. Let's say we need for exporting wine, in this case to China. You will see there are some basic standard documents like sales contract, invoice, packing list, labels. Be careful about the labels you are having for China. The Chinese translation, it's changing. So before you are sending goods out, ask your local agent to check with custom. With my last export, we did change labels 7 times. Luckily, I know how things are going in China, so I didn't send final version to our printing company really until the end. So the 7th label was the correct one. For that one, they said, okay, now you can print. And now, especially for the food, things are changing. We will see later on as well what you need to do for the for importing the food. As well, for example, if you check here on the list, we have one certificate of free sale. For me, that was the new document. I didn't need it before. We were always sending with that, but with our last shipment, they said they need this document. If you check, this is document who can be issued by the certain authorities. In Slovenia, we don't have that for food. I saw we have for the medical supplies. But again, after I checked, I said I cannot get this document in Slovenia. So we did check again with our agent in China, and we figure out that this is something we can write, and we can say like this is according to the safety rules. So check all the documents in advance. A lot of times you will find documents you don't need for European market. Find out what they are, make them, and send them for confirmation before you will send the goods out. Here you will see on the picture, you can see the stamp on the wooden pallet. This is something happened to us a lot in the past. This was when I was in China, we were receiving goods from Slovenia. It was the normal shipment. We had shipments every week, every month. We never had the problems. The pallet were treated according to the rules. They had the stamp, but then suddenly, I still don't know if the person at the custom changed or what was the problem. Suddenly they were saying the stamp is not visible enough. When this happened the first time, I said, okay, I didn't even pay much attention. I just told to our supplier to be careful about that, to use the new pallets with really visible stamp. But then this started to happen like regularly. So more or less every pallet and it did happen for a certain period, 2-3 months, they were saying it was not okay. We were trying to prove them because we were taking pictures before sending goods. So we were showing them, they can see the sign, everything is okay. We have the same documents the whole time. We have the same supplier. In last 10 years, we had no problems, but they said no. So sometimes proving them they are wrong is not a good way. There was one, we had two options. One was like proving them they are wrong and hoping they will release goods. Another thing, they said, okay, you can do, we can like destroy the pallet. You need to pay, I think it was 80 euros per time. So you need to pay this money. We will destroy the pallets and we will release the goods immediately. So still to the day, I don't know why, but we needed to do like that, because if I wanted to prove them they are wrong, they did keep the pallet there for a week or two. On the end, we were the losers. We didn't have materials. We need to pay for the warehouse cost there. So the easiest way was like, let's destroy the pallet and we will pay you 80 euros. And yeah, so a lot of times you can come to the problems you didn't have in the past. For example, as well, one of the cases we had, we were receiving goods from Slovenia for, I think that time was 6-7 years. And one material, we had the same materials the whole time. And once at the custom, they said the custom code is not correct code. It should not be in this group. That was quite a problem because, of course, they stopped the releasing procedure and they asked us to put in another group. The problem we had, the other group, the group they suggested, the tax and custom, I think both was higher. So since this was our standard material, our costs would increase quite a lot with the quantities we had. So we really want that item to stay at the same group as it was before, and as well, it was the correct group. It was not something we did put in the different under different code to have lower custom or lower tax. At that time, it took more than 1 month, daily sending documents, daily talking with the custom. We had the great help of our local agent. And it really took like 1 month the problem to be solved. On the end, it was okay. We could continue with that. Which here I would like to again to point out. Don't do, let's say, in this case, don't put into different code to lower the costs, or in the contract on an invoice. We were talking today also about fake invoices. Do the correct invoice. They are gonna check, especially if you are doing long-term business. It's gonna be suspicious if you are going to change prices. You cannot sell for one price for a long time and then lower the price, because I heard also some suggestions like we can do the lower price so that the custom and tax are going to be lower. Don't do that. Sooner or later, you will have a problem, especially if you want to do a long-term business. As well, if you have company there, they're going to check. If they will see you will have price difference, they're going to check why, especially if you are buying for your headquarter. And then it's very hard to explain if, of course, there is not a good reason for that. as well for kind of like consulting contracts. That's something that they are really strict about checking. When we were doing consulting contracts, you really need to have project behind, because a lot of times you really need to present the whole project to approve the contract you made. For importing food and drinks, there are new rules in China. Here on my slide, you can see the packing. The labels are changing now. This rule is from beginning of the year, so January 1st, they started. I must say we didn't send goods out according with these new labels yet. We are preparing now. What you need to do is, maybe I can go to the next slide first. So what you need to do is you need to get the import number in China. There is the whole procedure how to do it. Here you have the web page where you can do it yourself. I will not go into details, but maybe the basic things that you need to know. You can do it yourself. It is as well in English. Translation is quite okay, but it would be much easier if you would have help of someone doing that before. One important thing is this register number that you need at the beginning. This is the number you can get from your business license, can be VAT number, registration number. Just be sure this is the number you have on one of your documents and you are going to use in the future as well, because later you cannot change this number. If you want to sign in, you need to use the number all the time. What you need to do, you need to fill in some company data, informations about material. So it is exactly from which material your product is done. So for example, for the wine, you need to write down how many percentage is grape. If you did add some other things, what are any percentages, where the materials is coming from, which country. So you need to go into the details. You need to have the production process shortly, but you need to write down. Then suppliers, subcontractors data. They are asking as well, like if you're using your own water or it's public water, do you test it, things like that. So it will take some time to fill in. As well, when I was doing, the connection was not good. So one day it was working perfectly, another day I could not even log in. But you can save things and you can continue from where you started. After custom is checking, you will get the number. You will get the approval in the system with the number which you need to use it for import food. It takes some time to get approval. For me, I was waiting for 2 weeks for the first one I did. Maybe now it's gonna be faster. I guess in January we were all doing that. I just got it a day before Chinese New Year. So I heard some people were getting in one day, but I was waiting for 2 weeks. On the end, it was approved with no modification needed. So now that we have this number, I will go back to the packing. We need to use this number on all our packages. So as I understand, it needs to be on the box and as well on the the bottle. So you have case here for some chocolate. So if you buy a box of chocolate, need to be on the box. If in the box are small chocolates, you don't need to put on that, except if it's gonna be sold by piece. Then you need to buy to put it on every piece. So with that as well, labels are gonna change. So as I was saying before, check in advance what are the new rules, even though if you were sending before. Here, maybe really for the end, I would like to say it's very important what kind of shipping agent you have. Usually, I don't have problems on European side. Things are going smoothly. Actually, it doesn't matter. I was working with big or small forwarding companies. The only problem that can appear is if they are overbooked. Then it plays a role what kind of customer you are. More important, bigger customers, of course, have advantage. So try to have this good connection with the agent. Also, if you will have some problems, delay or something, that they will inform you on time, so you can save what's possible to save. But what I think it's really important is the agent on Chinese side. We heard before, it's really important in which field they are working. Do they have experience with your products? And are they having really good connection with the custom on Chinese side? A lot of things, a lot of money can be saved, a lot of problems can be saved if you have good agent on Chinese side who have a connection with custom, who knows what to ask, where to ask. Maybe one advice as well, if you have good agent in Slovenia, for example, you like to work with them, ask them to give you agent on Chinese side, get their contacts, get them to be connected with your partner in China, with your company in China, and ask them to connect in advance to check how everything's gonna be. And from that, a lot of times they can also see if they can work together, if they can solve problems together or not. Since our time is running out, I hope I didn't scare you. Everything can be solved. Just be prepared in advance. Take your time, and yeah, you can do it. Maybe one last thing. Last time when I supposed to have this presentation, it was March 8th, so International Women's Day. I just wanted to share one of the things with you. It's not too late to share it today as well. So when I was in China, we always had women's from the company had a half day off. That's not according to law, but more or less, at least the companies I was working with, we were doing that. So after lunch, all the ladies went home. And maybe one of the story for the end, we were always getting some small, maybe some flowers to all of our female employees. And I remember the first year I came to a new company, I went to buy some chocolates and flowers for all the ladies. The second year I sent my secretary I asked her to go buy some small gifts for all of us, and she came back with cleaning supplies. Actually, we get the laundry detergent, and for me it was like, I didn't know if that's a joke, or I guess I would be offended if especially a male boss would give that to me in Slovenia, but in China that was actually normal, and they were more happy with those cleaning supplies than with the flowers. So this is about the cultural difference we were talking through our whole presentations. And with that note, I will finish for today. And I would like to give the word to Nikolai for some questions that we might have.
Okay. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you, Janea, for the presentation and for sharing with us a lot of your firsthand experiences of having worked many years in China and experienced different stages of setting up a company and getting your products into China, all these things that you covered in your presentation. So thank you for that. I think the first question we would take is actually one that we received here at the end, but it was about something you mentioned specifically at the end of your presentation. The question is about the CIFER registration process that you had at the end of your slides. And the question is, should companies in Europe also do that for cross-border e-commerce sales? Register the food products on the CIFER website. Any comments to that?
Was this question for me? I didn't know. For me, for e-commerce, I'm not doing it, so honestly, I don't know. Maybe Rafael have answer for that, doing e-commerce.
Let me check. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Okay. Well, in principle, all what is sold cross-border e-commerce in China directly to a consumer, even if it's through a platform, okay? In principle, it's exactly the same that if they were purchasing this product abroad, okay? So imagine that some Chinese tourist visits Slovenia and purchase some sort of food. So in principle, that if it's just for his or her own consumption, puts on the suitcase, returns to China, in principle should not be put there, but in practice, yes. Because in practice also, even if you return as a tourist to China, they can tell you, open your suitcase, and then if you are trying to import meat, they might say this is not allowed to import into China, or plants or other things. So I take for granted that CIFER will ask also to register the stuff that is required for CIFER. If it's not explicitly, implicitly, I take for guarantee that you need to do. One thing Irneia mentioned is why they do this. There is a lot of fraud in imports. So by Chinese importers. So they change the invoices often. So this is a way they can check in different ports if similar shipments of the same category have different invoices in different ports, and then they will call everyone, the supplier, the importer, the partner, everyone. So I would suggest ask, but I'm pretty sure that online cross-border e-commerce, all the stuff will need to be certified. Maybe that's some harmless stuff, like alcohol drinks, probably no, but food, yes, for sure, and cosmetics, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you both.
Yeah, maybe here also, yeah, for you have different, I was doing this for alcohol drinks, for the wine, and it's not so strict as maybe for some others. So you have different categories. So some of are even more strict. You need to give even more data to get the import number. As well, like you're saying, the frauds. One of the things we maybe didn't even mention in that, also in trying to enter the Chinese market, sometimes they say it's easier to go through Hong Kong. Maybe it's easier, but I don't I don't like that way personally, because then it's even bigger possibility to get to be more fraud, to have problems later. You don't know how they will, if you export to Hong Kong, you don't know how they will do it with your goods in China. And if you have your brand name, you need to see what's going on with that on Chinese market. Not just like I'm gonna sell it and then I'm gonna leave it there.
Thank you both, Janea and Rafa, for the reflections to that question. We are sort of running out of time, or have already actually ran out of time. So I will just answer one extra question that we have received a couple of times today. It's a technical one, and the question is, can you see the today's session either by the slides or by the video after today is concluded? And the answer to that question is yes. So today's session and all of our sessions that we do with the EU SME Center will be put up on the EU SME Center's YouTube platform. So you can find today's session there in just a few days. And also the slides for today's session will also be forwarded to you in an email after today's registration, together with also the feedback survey that we very much hope that you could help us to fill out, so we can improve our services for the future as well. It is now 2 minutes past 7 o'clock in the evening in Beijing time, at least. So that means it's 2 minutes past something somewhere in Europe or wherever you are. So that also means that we are wrapping up now. But the last thing that I want to say is, first of all, a very big thanks to both Janea and to Rafa for sharing with us under the topic of logistics and distribution channels in China. I was very, very thankful for that presentation. And then today's session was the 4th out of the 5 different sessions that we have in the capacity building webinar series. So do not forget that we have the 5th and final one on March 15th. That is on this Tuesday, where we'll be looking into digital marketing. And as Rafa also mentioned earlier, digital marketing, of course, not necessarily the same as digital sales. So we'll be focusing in on digital marketing on Tuesday, March 15th. Also, as always, free of charge to register for that one. Then I want to wrap it up here finally at the end by saying that today's session was brought to you by the EU SME Center, together with Spirit Slovenia and also Euroshambles. So some of you, I know you are watching, especially thanks to Martin and thanks to Sonia and Spirit Slovenia team. Thanks to Laura and thanks to everyone from Euroshambles as well. So with those words, thank you all for tuning in today. And we hope to see you for the final 5th session of this capacity building webinar series on Tuesday. So thank you for today and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.